as a designer, you have a huge responsibility of what you are creating. When you talk about robots, lots of people watch a lot of sci-fi movies. The future is full of robotics. It's going to happen. But how do we, make those technology be the helper for us? It's designer's job. We have to provide a vision. We have to think about how to create a bridge between human and technology. And how do we design a way that technology is helping us, serving us, is in the background of our regular human behavior.
Welcome to Designdrives, your audio experience about what, how, and why design drives things forward. A podcast hosted by Sebastian Gier, together with forward-thinking design practitioners from around the world.
In this episode, I talk with Qin Li, VP of Design at Fuseproject in San Francisco. We sat together at the recent IDC conference in Chicago, organized by IDSA, where she's part of the board of directors. This episode is part of a series where IDSA and Designdrives brings you a selection of speakers, exploring what, how, and why design drives things forward. With Qin, I talk about the projects and learnings during many years at Fuseproject, the journey coming from China, but also sustainability, women in design, diversity, and more. Enjoy. So I'm here with Qin Li, VP of Design of Fuseproject. You won a couple of awards, right, at the IDEA Gala on Wednesday, right? Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Maybe to give the audience a bit of more context about your background and where you're from and how you got into design. Maybe you can share that with the audience.
So, my name is Qin, spells Qin, but pronounced Chin. I'm from China. I'm Chinese. I studied industrial design in China, undergrad. Also have 3 years work experience in China. During those times, industrial design in China wasn't as strong as these days. So to me, it was more interesting to study overboard and to find the true meaning of industrial design. So after I graduated from the university in China, I came to the United States. I studied at Academy of Art University for the MFA study, and during those time I also worked at Lunar for about a year. After I graduated, I became industrial designer at Fuseproject. So
and then what time was it? When did you join Fuseproject?
2004.
2004. So you started as an industrial designer, right?
Yeah.
And then when did Fuseproject got founded?
1999.
Yeah. So it was 5 years old then when you joined.
Yeah, when I joined Fuse, I think I was the number 15 or 16. The team back then was really, really small.
How many people?
I was number 15 or 16. That's everybody.
Yeah.
But same as now, it's very talented people. I learned so much. I remember when I joined Fuse, Fuseproject actually told me that I want you to grow with the company. So to me at that time, I didn't really understand what does that mean, like grow with the company. After a few years, I realized that that is actually happening. The company is growing. We have a lot more interesting projects. Myself, I gained lots of experience. I'm also growing with the company together. So now we are at 100 people.
Wow.
We grew from industrial design and strategy to these days we have holistic approach. So we have design strategy, industrial design, brand, UX, and we also just built a new discipline, environmental design. So the industrial design team at Fuseproject is the biggest discipline. So now we're able to look into each problem holistically, right? From the physical to digital, provide a solution that accommodates an ecosystem. To me, that's very, very interesting every time. I grew from an industrial designer, grew so deep into industrial design. Then, with the practice that at Fuseproject, I was also be able to grow horizontally to see design from different lenses. So,
how can you talk a bit more about this environmental practice you guys started?
That is more about interior, retail space, so it's physical experience in the interior space. So we call it environment because we don't want to fix into a certain category. We touch exhibit design as well. We did the permanent exhibit for the Young Museum in San Francisco. So it's an exhibit for children to get to know art, to get to experience different kind of arts. So that was a permanent exhibition. That was one of our projects.
I think I saw this online. It was a lot about having young people and kids also try out stuff a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think that was a little bit the theme there, right?
Yeah.
How big is the UX UI team actually?
10-ish.
10-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
So still smaller than the
Smaller
IT
than
team. I
smaller
assume
than
there's a
ID.
lot of requests on that side as well. So I was wondering if it has overtook the ID team.
Lots of clients come to Fuseproject for the physical design.
Yeah.
But we do see, with the technology these days, you have to connect physical to digital. A lot of projects we are really more than one discipline to work on. It's actually kind of rare now with a project with only one discipline. The reason why the client came to Fuseproject is we are able to solve their problem from many different angles. So, but I think the team is growing. Yeah.
What were some of your favorite projects you got to work on?
I actually have a lot. As you know, my earlier years, I did a lot of jawbone.
I was wearing one.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
early
that
adopter.
that taught me a lot. Working on the cell chair for Herman was a very, very deep experience as an industrial designer. Herman has a very high standard of ergonomic. And think about, there's no reason to have a new chair if that's a better chair. So we have to come into an angle to think about what is a better chair. And they have that material that they have been using for underneath sofa, creating more, more comfort, but reduce material, so you don't need to put that many foams. And at that time was the idea, is there any way to use new materials? Nobody have ever used that. And that was a challenge, okay, what is characteristic? What's the best way to use the material? From there, we have to look in each detail of the chair to hit the high standard from Herman. How do you shape the form? We figure out, by using the points to pull the material together, then you can create this form that can support the body for 8 hours, for 12, 15 years. And look at every angle, the detail, the armrest, the knob, the seat. If you flip the chair upside down, it still look beautiful because we did touch every detail of the chair. And we also worked really, really deeply with the engineers at Herman. And that was a very successful model. When designers work very collaborative with engineers, we can solve problems together. So that, that was a really, really good experience to me. You can get so deep into the design process from the concept to the production. And it was 3 years of process. And that was remarkable experience and still one of my favorite projects. Well, lately, have you heard of SNU? We also won some awards last year at IDEA, and SNU is a completely different way of approach. It came from a big idea. Dr. Harvey Karp came to us, and he has this vision of how to solve these issues like newborn babies, new parents try to get the baby to sleep. A lot of time, they don't sleep. They cry. You don't know why. He wrote a book, Happiest Baby, and a lot of parents also learn from his books. But how do you do that? He has his practice. You have to swaddle the baby. You have to shake the baby. You also need to provide the sound, shh, sound like a white noise, because when the baby inside the womb is really tight, and mother always walk around, and you talk. There's a natural vibrations inside, and it's also there's a noise always. So after baby was born, if you give them a really quiet space, it's not the environment that they get used to. So his theory is how do you continue that environment from inside the womb to outside to provide that comfort. So to do that, we have to use machine learning. We have to put a lot of sensors inside this area. So the solution is a baby bassinet. And this bassinet has sensors built in, has motors, has artificial intelligence. and it can react to baby when they cry, when they shake. It can react automatically. The motor will start to shake, and then there's white noise generated. And based on the movement and based on the cry, the sound of the baby, it can provide different stage of interaction, and it's all automatically. And we also designed that swaddle. It's meant to continue to provide this comfort
Stability.
to baby. You have to put the baby in, and you have to attach a swaddle to the bassinet to enable this this movement. So that's for safety concern, and that makes it become the most safest bassinet in the world. Because for some of the infants, when they started to roll around, they could roll to sleep on their face.
Yeah.
That's another issue.
Yeah.
So this bassinet's not just solving the sleeping issues, not just solving for baby, but also helping parents to sleep better, but it's also the safest bassinet. So that is what I explained in the beginning, like this is not just purely industrial design, right? So this involved digital experience, physical experience, and psychology, the emotion side. The design is really simple because we don't want to show any machine outside. It's emotional connection with the parents. You're putting baby to bed. This is very emotional experience. You don't want to see tons of metals and machines surrounding it, and everything should happen behind the scenes rather than lights blinking. There's a sound telling you activating. So we have to hide everything. We also need to use the right type of material to create this breathability for the bassinet, also provide transparency so the parents sit on this side of the room, you can still see what's going on, with the baby inside the bassinet. We also help to create the name, SNOO. We decide the logo, we design the app as well, so we really look into a solution holistically. The project lasts for 5 years.
Oh, that's very long.
Yeah, very long.
Is it because of the user testing that it took so long? Or?
Because this is a new category. We start from scratch. Nobody has done such kind of thing. From the idea,
right? Yeah.
from the idea to the production, it took very long. Of course, including lots of user testing. There are 2 rounds of design as well. And to miniaturize the bassinets, hide all the components underneath the bed, but not making the bed look so big. Yeah.
Yeah, it's between a furniture and a baby product, right? It's somewhere in between.
It's also,
right?
it's kind of like a robot too.
Yeah.
So it's like at the edge of all different categories. Yeah.
Did you got some feedback from people who are using the product yet?
Yeah, so many feedback. And you can also see that, Instagram, social media, and a lot of people really say this is like life-saving for them. Yeah.
And I guess that feels great as a designer.
Feels
working
really
on that.
good, and it makes it worth to spend so much effort on this project.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I guess, to the whole topic of like the impact of design or what designers can drive forward, I assume this is a great example, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the thing that, the design that, got created, but also what it then meant for people and how it maybe, what kind of effect it had, right?
Like I said, it's huge. Designer is the creator of things. That's why, as a designer, you have a huge responsibility of what you are creating. When you talk about robots, lots of people watch a lot of sci-fi movies. The future is full of robotics. It's going to happen. But like, how do we make those technology be the helper for us? It's designer's job. We have to provide a vision. We have to create a bridge between human and technology. And how do we design a way that technology is helping us, serving us, is in the background of our regular human behavior, because everybody still wants to live in your human life rather than have a robot sitting here interrupting you. You want to have your natural human life. And so it's a designer's job to help to hide it, how to blend it into your life, make it invisible, intuitive, make it natural.
Yeah, I think it's also a great example for like the whole topic of humanizing technology. If you were speaking about a robot, right? But like this thing doesn't look like a robot at all, right?
No.
So it looks like a furniture, right? And,
Yeah.
So I think it's also a great example of like, humanizing technology, or like taking maybe quite advanced technology, but putting it into a package and an experience that, doesn't feel like artificial, or like interacting with an artificial robot, right? So I guess that's another, I think, responsibility of designers moving forward as, these technologies progress. I would like to talk a little bit about your role at IDSA as well. You're a chair at IDSA,
Chair
right?
at the board of IDSA.
Mm-hmm.
I see that as supporter for IDSA. We are supporting IDSA, and IDSA is supporting the members. So I think that's the key role for us, help IDSA to serve our members better. When I was in China, during those times, the best way to learn design is really to look at the design magazine, because internet at that time was kind of spotty. And one of the design magazine was Innovation. So I learned so much, by just reading the Innovation magazine. And Innovation magazine is from IDSA. So when you're a member, you have the magazine. During those times, when I was in China, not even in the United States, that was my best way of learning industrial design. And after I grew into a senior role, I feel like this is important for me to support IDSA as a payback. It helped me to grow when I was in China. So that was one of the reasons. Also, I joined the board about 3 years ago. At first, I was a large director for awards. And my first mission is to look into the IDEA brand, the trophy as well. Not sure if you know. Okay. Yeah. So
it's really great.
So I team up with Fuseproject to redesign the branding for IDEA, to redesign the trophy as well. So that was my first mission on the board. During those times, I also look into the experience for IDEA as well, and improvement for IDEA. So this year I'm the chair. I think the focus is to continue the future vision from the past chair. We want to be able to grow with our community, bring value to the community. Some of the changes that Chris is making is, having more local chapter events, deep dive conference. So this year we have the Women in Design in San Francisco. We sold out very quickly, and we have not just women but also a lot of men join the conference as well, and that was really successful. And it's also very nice to meet a lot of women in design in the industry. Later we have the medical conference, and you have the IDC. We focus on to create the value, the content that related to our members. And I was talking about, like, as a student, how do you get to know industrial design? And that's open gate for you. But when you grow into senior position, the growth path is also important. So how can IDSA to support, to provide this mentorship, to provide this opportunity for you to continue to learn beyond your own work, learn from others. So the core of become a core, in your professional life. I think that's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
I know that you're also very passionate about, we spoke about that earlier also, about diversity and inclusion in design. You mentioned women in design as one of the efforts, right, of IDSA. Can you share a little bit about your perspectives on that topic?
We talk about that a lot. I think you have heard about women in design, women in industrial design, women in tech space. I had the chance to teach at 2 different schools in the past. One is Academy of Arts University, another one CCA. They both in San Francisco. At the class I saw actually lots of female students. It's about 50-50. But in the professional world, as industrial designers, you don't see that many. That means after graduating, some of them might not continue to be industrial designers. So I think that's a question. I was talking with different people at the conference as well, educators, like, what's the reason? Why did that happen? We don't have a clear answer for that, but we see that to enable the 50-50 diversity is a great benefit, because when you approach the project, you want diverse point of view to the solutions. And at Fuseproject, we have about 15 different nationalities. So it was great to have different kind of culture, look at the lens. but it's also good to have balanced gender to look at the problem solving. So after a lot of conversation, I think to provide that diversity is, it's also a design process. It needs to come from the beginning. How do you expose industrial design to different students? I think industrial design as a term, it sounds very technical. So for me also, I was originally focused on art for many years. I went to fine art high school in China. During the 4 years of study, I pay more attention to graphic design because it's kind of natural extension from physical, creating the visual, to the digital. After I graduated, the school I really want to go in China, they have no enrollment for graphic design.
Yeah.
So that was the opportunity for me to open up my mind to look at what other design I can do. And industrial design as a term, it sounds very technical at first, but after I talk to people, it's actually very interesting. And you get to create these interesting objects. You can make things become much more meaningful. And the biggest thing is art is for individuals. But industrial design, you design for a majority of people. So that deep meaning became a motivation. I really want to create something that can help improve life. So the bigger meaning of industrial design, it was a driving factor for me. And I think there should be a better way to introduce this to the younger generation, to welcome them into this discipline. And from the education side, there should be a way to empower the female design perspective. I met a student a few years ago. She showed me her work. One of the work was designing for outdoor gears. I asked her, why is the outdoor gears look so masculine? She was like, well, that's what they look like.
Or the client briefing. Right?
Or the client briefing. And I told her, well, you can look into this problem from the female perspective. I'm not saying design just for female. I'm saying to design a product that can be both appealing to male and female, can be both to be used by male and female. So that is also the influence, what kind of resource, what kind of mentorship you can provide to the female designers so that they know it's okay for them, it's safe for them to provide their point of view. And continue to enrich, to cultivate them, to grow, to do any different kind of design, not just feminine, not just baby products. So I think that's to help to hit the goal of gender balance in the industry.
Are you mentioning already quite a bit on what could we do? I was wondering a little bit on what could we do in terms of achieving that 50-50, what you see in school, also in design leadership, right? I don't know do you have more insights to share on that? Or?
I kind of touched a little bit how to support the female designers, provide mentorship to help them to get the openness to provide their own perspective. I think this needs to continue to, as a design leader, I see it as a benefit. Actually, in this industry, there's not so many female design leaders. So I'm really respect to people like Micah. She was also the jury chair, 2019 IDEA. I worked with her at Nuna back in the day, so I learned so much from her as well. If in your career, if you have people that you can look up to.
I think that's another thing. I also see a lot is that role models is a big topic, right? So it needs female role models also. I think there are quite a lot now also. And I think this could also drive change. I think because obviously this inspires people, right? Obviously this is influencing people's decision also in their career, right?
You have someone to learn from. You have someone to talk to if you have questions, and you have someone to give you opportunity to grow. I think it's very important.
Maybe one more topic I would like to talk about is the impact of design, maybe more of a zoomed out perspective. There's been a lot of talk about, you probably have seen the McKinsey study about the value of design, Joe Maeda, and there's been a lot of talks about that design becomes more and more important. You've been at Fuseproject now, quite a while, and you maybe experience also how clients approach you guys may be different than maybe when you were starting out. Can you maybe give a little bit on your perspective on that rise of the importance of design, and maybe from your own personal perspective?
I think, we kind of touch a little bit of technology, how we can use technology to solve problems, and what's our perspective of using technology, right? Because we don't want technology to overwhelm. So that was, I think, it's designers' responsibility how to, utilize technology to create a bridge, but not overwhelming. I think that's, we touch a little bit about that. I think another thing is huge also is sustainability.
Yeah.
I had the chance to listen to founder of Cradle to Cradle, William McDonald's talk, and it was really inspiring. He said, designer is a creator of good and bad. Means, whatever you design, it could end up to be a garbage, or it could end up to be something that doesn't create any harm to the environment. So this topic is huge, and I think this is a huge responsibility for us as well. How do we provide this influence, not just from the design side? Also, we have to educate our clients. To clients, often they focus on the product, the features, the market, the users. Sustainability is all the way in the end of the line. So for us, we have to raise this topic to talk about why it's important, and to educate our client to build that into the practice, build that into one of the foundational requirements of the design. And to the manufacturer also, how do we get the materials, how do we have those materials to be able to use? So we have to push the supply chain, push the manufacturer, the vendor to innovate on materials, to refine their process, to create a much greener process to produce the product that we design. So this is like a huge landscape, and design for sustainability is very, very difficult at the moment. It's very difficult to get those materials in the mass production scales. Also very difficult to push the vendors to do certain things. Zero emission product to be recyclable, disassemblable, and that is a huge effort. I think it should come from the designer side. We are the one that to push for that.
Yeah. Do you have any? You did a lot of projects around that. So I wonder, do you have any learnings on how designers can propose these things, and to make that kind of impact? Any learning from you too in terms of like sales pitch, right? How to convince all the stakeholders this is the right way to go?
I think to introduce that concept early, to talk to them, how is that going to relate to the brand as well? Because from the client standpoint, what's the value of doing that? So we can introduce that as one of the messages coming from your brand. This is something that you want to stand up to speak about for your product, for your service. And obviously, not everyone can absorb the concept right away. And we have to continue to provide solutions. For example, introduce materials to talk about, by using this material, how many processes you can cut off, or you reduce time, money, and that is another good element to put on the table, right? The reduction of energy. It's also create benefit to the business. And we also need to bring them along to educate. Okay, the reason we decided like that, because we want to enable to use sustainable material. We want to be able to cut off layers of painting process, so the product can be recycled. When you bring them along, they feel like they're involved. They feel like they're part of it. I think that's another way to do that. And not just products, also packaging. Introduce that concept also early, the material that we're using, and reduce the parts inside the box. Keep it single material so that you can compose or you can recycle in the same bin. So these are the things that we have to push. From a concept, and then from a product to the ecosystem, from the product to packaging, from product to accessories, and then from the design to manufacture. Sometimes the engineers is from the client side, so we have to bring them along as well. They have to actually create more effort to make it work, but it's very important to bring them along and then continue to push for production. So I think that's a lot of work right there. But we don't want to create another garbage.
Yeah, I think designers also have the unique capability to, in that regard, to with a vision or with a concept, connect the dots, or take a theoretical discussion that's maybe happening around sustainability and put it into something, prototype it, visualize it, make it tangible and give texture to the idea, and then have people talk about based on that, right?
Yeah.
And obviously this sparks already inspiration of what is possible, and could drive motivation also for all the stakeholders.
Exactly. We need to have a successful case study to show to the world, to show to the next client, this is the right approach. We have done that. We know how to do it. Let's do it again with you. And I think that is good models to push for.
Maybe as a last question, what would be your advice to young industrial design students or people who want to go into industrial design from your perspective?
I think the biggest thing is keep your passion. I think everyone get into the space has their own reason, and just keep in mind what's your passion, what's the drive, and keep going. Always remember your dream. What's your dream from the beginning, and believe into it. Continue to work on it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one more question that just pops in my mind, because you were mentioning China earlier. Have you been back to China actually in recent years?
Yes.
Maybe for projects and so on, I guess.
Both.
Yeah. I think you left China a long time ago, but also I think the industrial design scene in China has really picked up, and I think it's much more mature now. Do you have any perspectives in that regard? Maybe I assume it was very different when you were starting out in China, right? And now you worked in the US for a very long time. If you reflect back on how that country and the design industry that changed.
Yeah, it's changed so much. When I was in China, in the beginning of my career, industrial designer was considered as art worker. They have a term to call it art worker. So client will purchase something from overseas and bring it to you, put it on the table, say, oh, I like this toaster. I bought it from the United States. I just want my toaster to look like this. So that was no design.
Yeah.
But I think in the past few years, China grew so fast, not just from the design, also from technology. Robotics and AI also grew so fast in China. And quickly, you also see the changes, like how the value of design is significantly different these days. And people willing to invest into design rather than just give me a look. And they were willing to spend time to work on the technology, work on the user experience to push the design. And in the past, it was lots of copies. You can see these days. I think the designers also realize that they are the one to push for to the client, say, copy is not how you build a brand. You need to build a brand from innovation. So I think the change is happening very huge, and also the design communities also continue to push for that. And we saw some
at the IDSA Gala, right? I was just pointing it out. There have been a lot of successful designs also from China. Right? There's
also lots of visitors come from China every year. They are coming to learn from the Western country. So it's a good sign. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. Very inspiring.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the episode. If you want to give us feedback on the podcast, have something to contribute to the next episode, or just want to get in touch, feel free to connect with us either on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram messages, or simply via the designdrives.org website. We love to hear from you.